Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Maria, and in this video we're going to be exploring the topics associated with how to transition from a student nurse over into a newly qualified nurse. And this video was actually a request from one of my subscribers, so if you guys do have any video requests, then make sure you put it in the comments box below, because if it is a topic that I feel like I could help you with, and if your video suggestion does get a handful of likes, then more than likely I will do a video about it. So I can't remember the exact question, but it was something along the lines of, can you share your experience of, transitioning from a student nurse over to a newly qualified nurse? And first, when I saw that video suggestion, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can definitely talk about that. And then when I thought about it for a bit longer, I was like, oh, well, there's nothing really to it, just get on with it. You can't, it's not a step, it's not a process that you can omit, that you can just kind of jump over. You just have to go through. You can't go on, you can't go over, you literally have to go through. So I was thinking, you just get on with it. And then I was thinking I wasn't going to do a video about it, and then I had one night shift that was really quiet, and I thought, okay, let me just come up with a couple of video ideas. And my mind went back to the comment that this person made, and I started to think about transitioning from a student nurse over into a newly qualified nurse, and I was like, oh, there's actually a lot to this topic. So here we are. As you can see, I'm in a very different position from what I would normally assume when I'm doing my standard videos, just because I feel like this video is probably going to be a lot longer. I want this video to be as natural as possible, so I can give my real life experience, my real life advice, my real life tips. Not that I don't give that in my other videos, but I just want this video to be a lot more relaxed. So you can see the length of this video. If you're thinking you're not going to have enough time to watch this video in its entirety, then just pause this video, come back at a later time. Watch this video while you're doing your nails, watch this video while you're doing your hair. Yeah, sit down, relax, get a cup of tea, get a cup of water, like I do have here. And yeah, I do have a lot of notes, so thank you so much for making that video suggestion, because when you guys make video suggestions in terms of any video topic, not only does it benefit you guys when I draft the videos and when I create the videos and edit them and upload them, it also benefits me because it allows me to look inwards, not just at my nursing practice, but just to look inwards in my life and see what it is that I want, and then it allows me to reflect and make positive change in the right direction. So thank you so much, because I'm actually really excited. I might not show it, but I'm actually really excited to talk about this topic. There are a lot of challenges that await newly qualified nurses, especially when that period when you're transitioning from a student nurse over into a newly qualified nurse. One, because you're transitioning into a vocational profession, you're transitioning into the nursing profession, which is already in a crisis. And then when you put that on top of the fact of the current pandemic, COVID-19, it's going to make your experience that much more difficult than what it already would have been. And when I think of transitioning from a student nurse to a newly qualified nurse, there are 4 main topics that come into mind. And the first topic is expectations. The second topic is nursing shortages. The third topic is professional relationships. And the fourth topic is support and development. And then when I look inwards, and when I really specifically look at my nurse profession, my experience, 2 additional topics come into mind. The first one is accountability, and the second one is setting boundaries. So yeah, let's just start from the top. We're going to start with nursing expectations, but this is a more relaxed video, so I think all of the points will probably be integrated anyway. So what is an expectation? And a very quick Google definition will reveal to you that an expectation is that an expectation is a strong belief that something will happen or something will be the case. And I can say that hands down, when I finished my nursing degree and when I was transitioning into a newly qualified nurse, I can say hands down I had no nursing expectations. I had no expectations for nursing, but one thing I did have was boundaries. I had no nursing expectations, and I think that was down to my nursing program and a lot of the modules that I studied, and I think it was down to the conversations that I had with different lecturers and different seminars, and I understood the meaning of nursing in a crisis. I understood the state that the nursing profession was in, and that the state that the nursing profession currently is in. I was aware of a lot of the issues that the NHS, that the nursing profession is currently facing. So I knew that my experience could go either way. So I didn't have any expectations. I didn't have any expectations for good, and I didn't have any expectations for bad. But that didn't mean that I was just going to go with the flow and just kind of let, you know, what was happening outside of me control my experiences. No, I didn't have any expectations. However, one thing I did have was boundaries. I knew what I was going to tolerate in the nursing profession, and I knew what I was not going to tolerate in the nursing profession. I knew what it was that I was going to accept and what I was going to open and encourage, you know, encourage with open arms, and I knew what I was gonna push away. You know, forget expectations, because a lot of the times people, or some situations, especially when it comes to a profession that is in crisis, it may not meet your expectations. So how are you going to feel? So coming from somewhere like me, or coming from my experience, when I knew, I fully understood, and I fully understand theoretically what it means that nursing is in a crisis. For me, it would have been foolish for me to go in thinking, I want this, this and this, or I expect this and this, this and this. So rather than pointing the finger at the nurse profession and saying, I expect you to be this, and I expect you to do that, and I expect you to give me this, and I expect to be able to give you this, I couldn't do that. The nursing profession is massive. There are so many strings attached. I pointed the finger at myself, and I said to myself, Maria, what is it you will tolerate, and what is it you will not tolerate? And there are a list of things that I will tolerate, and a list of things that I won't tolerate. And I'm not about to go through, you know, the whole entire list of them, because I don't have a list of them, but I do know it when I see it. I do know it when I hear it. I do know it when I experience it. It's kind of like you don't know someone by name, but you know them when you see them, or you know them when you're around them. So yeah, I didn't have any expectations, but I did have a lot of boundaries. I'll give you one example. You could, you know, be working and it's super busy, and it is extremely stressful. And I'm not saying I don't tolerate stress, but what are the reasons for that stress? Is it because of a very poor management, or is it because of the global issue of there not being enough nurses? Or is it because of my nursing practice? Is it because I'm not smart enough? Or is it because I don't have enough knowledge? You know, why am I so stressed? And if it's because of a reason that I don't deem as acceptable, then no, I won't tolerate it. And I will literally just be like, I'm not tolerating that, I'm going away. Some things I won't tolerate abuse. I don't care who or where it's coming from. I don't care what the reasons are for it. I don't care if it's the first time it's ever happened in this hospital, or if it's the 100th time it's never happened in this hospital. Those are things that I don't tolerate. Those are just a handful of things. But even things like, you know, poor management, I can't tolerate poor management, because when I think about it, nursing is such a massive profession. There's so many bits to it. If you can't manage the ward properly, I'm going to go somewhere else where they can manage the ward properly. So I don't want to come across as, oh, she's bossy, or oh, she's feisty, or oh, there's nothing wrong with being bossy or feisty. But, you know, I don't want to come across as, oh, she don't do this, she don't do that, she don't do that. But I'm not trying to be swept up. I'm not trying to be, you know, that nurse who's constantly unhappy because of things that other people are doing. So yeah, I didn't come in with any expectations, but I did have a lot of boundaries, and I do have a lot of boundaries. And I think one reason why I do have a lot of boundaries is because when I was a student nurse, I had a very rich experience, very rich in the terms of the fact that all of my placements were very good. At the time, I might not have felt that they were 10 out of 10, but you know, as I'm working as a newly qualified nurse, or not even, I'm not really a newly qualified nurse anymore, but as I'm working as a nurse, I've been doing so for the past year and a half, so the last 18 months, I can say hands down that my mentors were amazing, and a lot of them were very strong characters in the terms of they didn't have any expectations, but they knew, no, I'm not accepting that. Yes, I will accept that. Yeah, I will accept that. No, I'm not accepting that. You know, and I feel like that really shaped my experience, because I don't mean like good placements and the fact that, oh my gosh, placements are amazing, I got on with every member of staff, but I mean like really good placements in terms of the fact that I could see so many different types of nursing. I saw the bad side of nursing, like the very bad side of nursing, and I saw the good side of nursing, the very good side of nursing, and I saw the in between. So I knew that, you know, there was so much that could happen. So like I said, coming from what I'd experienced myself, coming from what I've learned from the accounts of other people, coming from what I've read myself, for me there was no way that I could go in saying this was my expectation. I couldn't point the finger and say this is going to be what I expect you to do, but I could have put the finger at myself and say this is what I will accept, this is what I won't accept, this is what I will tolerate, this is what I won't tolerate. And this doesn't just go to the nursing profession, it goes to life in general. You can't be pointing fingers at other people, because, you know, you can't expect it. You can't expect it. And you might think, but it's common sense, or oh, but you know, I would expect that from the nursing profession. I would expect there to be enough nurses. I would expect the managers to be amazing. I would expect there to be enough paracetamol, something as trivial as that. I would expect this, I would expect that. But you'll be surprised at how many things can go wrong and how many things do go wrong. And you'd be surprised that, you know, when things do go right, how much of an impact it has on your nursing practice and how much it has on the health and the well-being of the, you know, patients and, you know, service users that you're, you know, helping to care for. So I'm just looking at my notes because I don't want to miss anything. So some of you guys might be thinking, okay, so Maria's saying going with no expectations. No, I'm not saying with that. Okay, so Maria's saying make sure you set your own boundaries. Yes, make sure you set your own boundaries. How would you go about doing that? That's the advice that I would give. That's what I currently do in terms of setting my own boundaries. And what I say is think about the nurse you currently are. Even though you might not be a registered nurse in terms of have your PIN and stuff like that, you are a nurse now. But you know, think about the nurse that you are. Think about the nurse that you want to be. What is your nursing image? What is your nursing identity? Does it align with what it is that you're currently doing now? Are you the nurse that you want to be, or are you slowly developing into the nurse that you want to be? Basically, what sort of nurse are you? What type of nurse you want to be? What does your nursing energy look like? Do all the points match? Does your nursing energy match the place that you are currently working at? Or does your potential nursing energy match the place that you're currently working at? Let's just say your nursing energy on a scale of 0 being no energy and 10 being the best nurse ever. Let's just say your nursing energy is like on a 5. And obviously you want to become a nursing with your energy level on a 10. Does the place that you're at support that? Do they even support you moving from a 5 to a 6? Do they even support you moving from like a 1 to a 2? Wherever it is that you will rate yourself. I use that scale just because it's easy to understand, but your nursing energy and who you are as a nurse and who you want to be as a nurse isn't something that you can rate from 0 to 10. It fluctuates all the time and there are so many different things that come into play. But yeah, look at the type of nurse that you want to become, the type of nurse that you are. What does your nursing energy look like, and do all the dots connect? And going back to the part of expectations, I'm not saying don't have any expectations, but what I am saying is that someone is cooking something very strong and I just got a massive whiff of that. Oh my gosh, oh, that stinks. Oh, really? Oh, that stinks. Oh my gosh. That just smells like poo. So yeah, like I was saying, look at your nursing energy. And going back to expectations, there's nothing wrong with having expectations, but the issue arises, the problem arises when there is a discrepancy, when there is a massive difference between what it is you are as a nurse, or what it is you want to be as a nurse, and what it is that you are currently experiencing on the ward. Discrepancy is such a massive issue. It leads to role ambiguity. Do I do this? Do I not do this? It leads to a loss of nursing identity. You're thinking, oh, this is what I should be doing, but now that I'm here, this is what all the other nurses are doing, and it's not what I believe to be a good nurse, or it's not what I believe people's nursing energy should be like. And I'm not saying every nurse is going to be the same. Every nurse will be different, but generally we should all be upholding, you know, basic nursing principles. Yeah, so role discrepancy is the biggest issue. It leads people to be thinking, have I completely caught the wrong end of the stick? It leads some people thinking I've caught the short straw. And I do want to say that if you do find that there's a discrepancy between the nurse that you want to be and the environment that you're currently in, don't be so quick to point the finger and be like, it's them, it's them, it's them. They're wrong, they're doing this, they haven't set this in place for me to do, they haven't done this, they haven't done this. Sometimes you need to look within yourself, because when you sign a contract to say I'm going to work as a nurse in this healthcare facility, it's a two-way thing. Don't just expect, you know, others to give and you to take. You have to give as well. So yeah, let me just read on here. There is no issue with expectations. The problem arises when there is a mismatch between your expectations and what is happening. That is where the problem and issues start for a lot of people who are transitioning from being a student nurse to newly qualified nurse. You know, role discrepancy or discrepancy between your expectations and what you're actually doing, your expectations and what, you know, the place that you're working with actually expects. It can lead to confusion, ambiguity. It can threaten your nursing identity or threaten nursing identity in general. It can lead to a reality shock, low job satisfaction, leaving you feeling like you caught the wrong end of the stick. And yeah, really feeling like, you know, am I even transitioning into the right profession? Like, what is this? Like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? Like, am I going crazy or are they going crazy? It's two things. And like I said, don't be so quick to point the finger and say they should be doing this, and I expect this from this job, and I expect this from my manager, and I expect this from this healthcare facility. Because when you signed the job, it was a two-way contract. They said they were going to do this and you said you were going to do this. Is the reason why you're transitioning from a student nurse to a newly qualified nurse, is the reason why, you know, you may be finding it so tricky, or where you may, because some of you might not be in that position yet, where you may find it difficult. Is it because you didn't concentrate hard during your lectures and now you can't tell the difference between this type of drug and this type of drug? Is it because, you know, you only just about managed to pass your nursing degree? Is it because you have a lot of things going on in your personal life and it's having a negative impact on your nursing energy? So yeah, sometimes it is the fault of the place that you're working at or the people that you're working with, but a lot of the times it can also be your fault, and not your fault or their fault in terms of blaming it, but sometimes there's a lot of room for improvement within yourself, and the room for improvement isn't always just with the people that you're working with, or, you know, the trust that you're working in. So there are a lot of recommendations, and most are directed to nursing programs. And one is, if you're currently still a student nurse, engage in your nursing program as much as possible. Two is, when you're applying for a new job, scope it out and don't just choose a place to work on the whim. I have a lot of videos that talk about interview techniques, that talk about how to pass your nursing interview. Basically, just watch all my videos and you should generally be okay. And I'm not just saying that because I want more views, but I do believe that the quality of the videos that I'm putting out are very beneficial. So if this is the only video that you've watched, as soon as you've watched this video, go and watch, you know, a bunch of, you know, my other videos. And, you know, what can you actively do to change that? And understand that if you can't get it in this job, you can get it elsewhere. Similarly, if your job can't get it in you, they can just get it from someone else. Everyone is replaceable. Everything is replaceable. Yeah, understand that. So that's kind of like, you know, exploring expectations and briefly talking about boundaries. So now we're going to go into, yes, so nursing shortages, you have, you know, options. These are points that I made. You have options. If you're working in a place and they're really understaffed and it's having a very negative impact, not just on yourself, but also on your patients, and you're thinking this isn't safe, you have a choice. You can move, or you can try and elicit some sort of change. Also, it's a very slippery slope. I don't feel the need to go over the negative impact of nursing shortages, because I'm sure a lot of you would have experienced that and can understand what can happen. But, you know, some of you guys might not understand how bad it really can be and how dangerous nursing shortages really can be. And, you know, the issue with, you know, nursing shortages and, you know, nurse-patient ratio is because, as far as I'm concerned, I've looked and looked and looked. I can't find any law or any legislation that says, if you're in this area, this should be the nurse-patient ratio. And if you're working in this area, this should be the nurse-patient ratio. And if you're working in this area, this should be the nurse-patient ratio. I haven't seen any law or anything that can be used in a court of law to say, oh, the reason why she made this mistake is because, you know, she had 10 patients that she was caring for. That's what makes nursing shortages really hard. And I think, you know, nursing shortages is one of the things that I won't accept if there are not, or one of the things that I won't tolerate, if there are not enough, simply because I've seen what can happen when there are not enough nurses. I've seen it with my own eyes. I have experienced it. I have heard it, like, and it's not a good thing. So yeah, nursing shortages is just one of those things that I won't tolerate. One, as a newly qualified nurse, you know, if there's not enough nurses, patient care isn't good, your experience isn't good, because rather than you having like a supernumerary period, your supernumerary period is pretty crap. I've got tons of emails from people saying, oh, I've started as a nurse and I'm working in London. So my phone, I mean my camera battery died, so I had to let it charge, and I think I know where we left off. I was talking about how I've received a lot of emails from people saying, oh, I've started a new job as a newly qualified nurse. I should have had a 3-week supernumerary period, but because they're so understaffed, they've just thrown me into a bay. I'm responsible for 11 patients, don't know what to do, got no support. So you can already see how much of a negative impact low nursing shortages can have. And you know, the emails that some of the people have sent me in terms of just being thrown into the deep end doesn't even touch on a surface of, you know, how much of a negative impact nursing shortages can have. And some of you guys might think, oh, why are you talking about nursing shortages? Why are you talking about nursing expectations? You know, why are you talking about professional relationships? Why are you talking about support and development, you know, when it comes to transitioning from a student nurse to a newly qualified nurse? And the reason why I'm talking about these topics and sharing what some of you guys have shared with me and sharing my topic and sharing where my head is at with this is because I know it's something that a lot of newly qualified nurses experience. You know, I was once, even though I've been a nurse for a year and a half, I don't really consider myself a newly qualified, but I was once a newly qualified nurse, and I worked with a lot of nurses who were newly qualified nurses, and a lot of them, including myself, didn't know how to go about it. In some situations we didn't know what to do. Sometimes we didn't know if what we were thinking was right or what we were feeling was right. And I'm not saying everybody's experience is going to be negative, because my experience wasn't negative. I had a lot of highs, and I had, you know, some negative points or some very bad negative points that happened to me while I was a newly qualified, or that I experienced, not that happened to me, but that I experienced while I was a newly qualified nurse. And the whole point of talking about this video, or talking about certain topics in this video, it's just so that you guys can understand that you're not the only one that's experiencing it, or you're not the only one that may experience it, and understand, you know, I'm trying to empower you guys and understand that a lot of the time it's not something that you need to look inwards at. You know, a lot of the time you do need to look inwards. But yeah, the main point, what am I trying to say? The main point of doing this video is that you guys can find someone to relate to, so you guys don't think, oh, this one thing has gone wrong, I'm not gonna do this, I'm just gonna quit nursing. That's not how it works. I want to empower people in all of my videos. I want to empower people. I want to give people knowledge. I want to share my knowledge. I want to give people information. Knowledge doesn't come from me, you know, knowledge begins and ends with God. But I want to share the knowledge that I have. I want to, you know, empower people and make people feel like they can make the best decision for themselves. That's why I'm sharing this, because when I was a newly qualified nurse, if I saw a video like this, if I had more people talking about their experiences as a newly qualified nurse, it would have made me feel a lot more confident in where I was, you know, headwise, in, you know, what I was experiencing. It would have made me feel like, okay, this experience isn't just an independent experience. Hence why I'm talking about just a whole bunch of different topics. Like I said, you know, we're in a different location. This is a heart to heart. We're just sitting, we're just talking, we're just jamming, and I'm just, you know, sharing some stuff that I know or that I think will be helpful to a handful of you guys. So going back to nursing shortages, I want to read something that I wrote down on my night shift in terms of nursing shortages. Once you hit a certain nurse-patient ratio, I feel as if I'm not working as a nurse anymore. So what are you doing? You're basically a gap filler, just a number. But hey, that isn't why I decided to work as a nurse. That isn't why I decided to do a 4-year undergraduate Masters of Nursing degree. I have a higher purpose than just being a number. People feel lost, then they just leave to fulfill their purpose in a different hospital or in a completely different role, whether it's relating to nursing or not. Do I really need to go over what's a negative impact that can happen because of nurse-patient ratio? We are now seeing staff with lower qualifications making up for empty nursing posts. That's just how bad the nursing shortage has gotten in the country, that the government's actually said, we don't have enough nurses, we're not going to put the money in to make sure we have enough nurses, so what we're going to do is just create a lower grade of nursing, and hopefully in a couple of years time they'll be doing the same thing that the standard band 5 nurse is doing. And I do want to say, I wrote this right at the bottom, I should have highlighted it. Just because you can hack it doesn't mean you should. Just because you can tolerate it doesn't mean you should. Just because you can, you know, withstand it doesn't mean you should. Do not function in your dysfunction. One thing that one of my mentors would always tell me is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Guys, listen to what I'm saying. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. This doesn't just apply to nursing, this applies to every part of your life. Do not function in your dysfunction. I actually created a video about this. I'm not sure if it's still public or if I privated it, but I did a talking video where I was basically just talking about don't function in your dysfunction. Unfortunately for me, my first job as a newly qualified nurse wasn't great, and some people were like, oh, why are you leaving? You're fine, you're doing really well in this role. And that's because, one, I'm very good at functioning in my dysfunction, and two, that is because I've got the best, or one of the best, poker faces ever. You know, I could be dying and crying and suffering on the inside, but on the outside you will not know unless I verbally tell you, or unless I want you to know that, you know, hey, I'm really happy, or hey, I'm really sad, or hey, this is great, or hey, this is not great. I have got the best poker face ever. So yeah, don't do what I did and, you know, function in your dysfunction for 6 months. Don't do that. Do not function in your dysfunction. Understand that everything is replaceable. Understand that everyone is replaceable. As harsh as it sounds, as mean as it may sound, you are replaceable. The person next door is replaceable. The hospital that you're working is replaceable. I saw a quote on Instagram. I can't be asked to log back onto Instagram because some of you guys might know that I've been off Instagram for ages, and I was going to go back on it a couple weeks ago, or even like last week, and I logged on it because I had to like contact someone, and I was like, I'm not missing out on anything. I'll just give, you know, Instagram a break. Let Instagram chill for itself. But yeah, I saw this quote on Instagram, and it says that people are literally killing themselves. People are literally massively inconveniencing themselves and inconvenience their friends and family for a job, for a career, for a profession, for a thing that will literally replace them within 24 hours if they were to drop dead and die. And that to me is crazy, but it's the 100% truth. At the end of the day, you come first. You come first. Your family comes first, your friends come first. Don't let other people, or don't let external things dictate who you are. Don't become a man of the world. Become a man of you, you know? Don't let other people dictate what you are. It's so easy to be like, yes, the world is our oyster, but what is it you want, and what is it you want to give? Because if you don't have a sense of who you are, or what you are as a nurse, or what you expect as a nurse, or what you want your nursing energy to be like, or what your nursing energy is like, then you will get washed up. And I'm just being real, and I'm just being honest. I don't want people to think that I've just come here to be like negative and stuff. No, I don't want people to be negative. I don't want to come across as negative, and I don't want people to think that, you know, transitioning from a student nurse to a newly qualified nurse is going to be horrible. Because for me, overall it probably wasn't horrible. It was a pretty decent experience, but I can see in little bits of my transition, and I can see in little bits of other people's transition, that it can really go either way. Hence why I'm doing this video. So yeah, just because you can hack it doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Do not function in your dysfunction. Please don't do it. So now we're going to talk about professional relationships. And what is a professional relationship? Google will tell you a professional relationship is when you engage in activity as one's paid occupation. And professional relationships are great because everyone is on the same page. However, you know, with every relationship, it is a two-way thing. For you to be in a professional relationship, you have to be professional, and the other person has to be professional. But because it's you that's watching this video, we're not going to point the finger at other people. We're going to point the finger at ourselves and look at what it means to be professional on just a basic level. Are you always 20 minutes late for work? Are you always wearing the incorrect uniform? Are you always chewing gum? Just basic unprofessional stuff like that. And the reason why professional relationships is so important, especially why it's so important to establish the right professional relationship and establish the right boundaries when you start as a newly qualified nurse and when you're transitioning from a student nurse over into a newly qualified nurse, is because people will treat you how you allow them to treat you. And this doesn't just go for transitioning from a student nurse to a newly qualified nurse. This goes to every part of your life. In every relationship that you'll ever encounter, that you will ever be in, People will treat you how you allow them to treat you. And I don't mean that in a sense that, oh yeah, you treat me nice, therefore people are going to treat you nicer. Oh yeah, I want you to be really nasty to me, therefore you're going to be really nasty to me. No, I mean that in a sense of boundaries, as in, when people initially meet you, they're going to treat you how they want to treat you. However, if they can see from the way you respond back to them, or from the way you don't respond back to them, and they think, okay, I spoke to her like crap and she didn't say anything, or she didn't do anything, that just means I'm going to continue, then that's what I mean about people will treat you how you allow them to treat you. And when I said it as well, I don't mean it in a sense that, oh, if you start work and this band 6 is really mean to you, they're not really mean to you because you allowed them to be mean to you. However, if it's over a prolonged period of time that they're constantly being mean to you, then, you know, as well as them, they need to look within themselves. Sometimes it's something that you may have done or you may have not have done. Have they been speaking to you like crap for the past 2-3 weeks and you haven't said anything? Well, of course they're going to start speaking to you like crap. And the reason why I say that as well is because in terms of, you need to look, sometimes yes, you can look at the other person, but because it's you watching this video, we're going to look at you, as in we're going to look at ourselves. Is because a lot of the times when people aren't being professional, and it may not even be like really rude to you, they could be like over friendly to you. However, with the other nurse, they're acting in a professional relationship. With the other nurse, they're being really mean. With the other nurse, they're acting as they should. And that's because people, we all know how to behave. We all know how to be in a professional relationship. We all know how to talk to people with respect. We all know how to be nice and be kind to people. However, we don't always do that. Why? It's because we know the boundary with this person is different, the boundary with this person is different. I know for a fact how I'm going to talk, you know, and engage in conversation with one band 6 is going to be completely different with another band 6, just because I know the boundaries are different, the relationship is different. And I don't mean that in a sense that I'm going to be mean to this band 6 and I'm not going to be mean to this band 6, but I mean it in a sense of, if I'm having banter with this band 6, this is probably what the banter is going to be about. And if I'm having banter with, you know, this other senior band 6, this is what the banter is going to be about. And I like to think that I'm nice to everyone that I work with, whether you're a domestic member of staff all the way up until director level. I'm nice with every member of staff. However, I do know that there are some people who are not like that. They treat lower grade members of staff like crap, and they treat high grade members of staff like royalty. And it's not because they don't know how to do that, it's not because they don't know how to treat people with respect. A lot of the time it's an issue with them. However, if it's someone that you're constantly working with and they're always talking crap and always being rude to you and you haven't said anything about it, sometimes you need to look at yourself. And I'm not trying to blame you, I'm literally just saying look at yourself, because it's you that's watching this video. You know, it's you, it's us that's watching this video. So we can really only look within ourselves, and there's only so much we can do as an individual. If you do come across people who are bullying, or I've never really come across that, to be fair, just because I don't tolerate that bullshit. Don't try me. I'm not the person to play with, and none of you guys should be the person to play with. I don't want anybody to try any of you, but you know, people will try you because I think you're a newly qualified nurse. I don't care how nice the other nurses are on the ward. I don't care how amazing and how this. There are going to be a handful of people there will probably be a handful of people who try you, and even if they just try you once, if you're just like, nope, don't even, and I don't mean like snap back at them, but I just mean if you're like, it could be something as, don't talk to me like that, or it could be something as, can you lower your tone of voice, or it could be something as simple as no longer further engaging in that conversation. Sometimes silence is the best remedy for someone who's just going and jabbing at you, because a lot of the times when people are rude to you, they want you to be rude back. You don't have to be rude back, you know. Being rude back sometimes is like the last resort, but if it's the first time that someone's being rude or being nasty to you, sometimes, you know, silence is the best thing. But it really does, it depends on so many different factors. I'm actually going to share and let me just plug my laptop because it's just shut down, and I was uploading a video, which is annoying. But let me just share a situation that one of my friends who's working in healthcare actually shared with me, and I'll just share with you guys what I would have done in this situation. So I'm going to be as descriptive as possible. Yeah, I'll be as descriptive as possible because there's no point being vague. So she basically called me on a night shift. really upset, telling me that she didn't know what to do, because basically there's this guy at work and he's always like, not always making sexual remarks to her, but yeah, he's always making, occasionally, one too many times is enough, but making sexual remarks to her. For instance, one time he said to her, "Oh, I can tell you're not a virgin by the way you act," basically saying that she was a slut, that she was promiscuous, that she was a hoe. And she was like, mate, like in her brain she's thinking, where the hell did this come from? Like, I don't know you like that, so you can't even say that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know you. One, I don't know you. Two, why do you feel it's okay to say that to me? So she didn't say anything. She was just kind of like, whoa. And if that was me in that situation, if a colleague had said to me that, "Oh, I can tell that you're not a virgin by the way that you act," oh my gosh. The first thing I probably would have said is, don't you ever talk to me like that again. Next thing I would have done is gone straight to doing a datix, and I probably would have, depending on how his body language and depending on how bad his tone of voice was, and if I felt threatened in that situation, mate, I probably would have put a report, gone to the police station the next day and said that this person said this, this and this to me. It made me feel uncomfortable, because that isn't right. But she didn't do anything about it, because that's just how her personality is, or for whatever reason she didn't do anything about it. And then there was another situation with this same member of staff. He's actually a senior member of staff to her, where she was like just filing through some notes. It wasn't really something that she should have done in terms of, let's just say in this situation she was a band 3 and that job was for someone who was a band 4. However, because she'd been in a role long enough, a lot of the band 5 nurses expected her to do that. So she was doing it, and the person was like, "Oh, why are you doing that? That's not even your job role. You think you're better than everyone else." And she didn't say anything. Yeah. And then there was another situation, that situation was, again, was just them and her. And then there was another situation where they were getting handover from, I think they were obviously transitioning from day to night shift, but they were in a handover situation. It was that man again, her, and then a handful of other nurses, healthcare assistants and stuff like that. And they were getting handover, and the guy basically just like snatched the handover sheet from her. I'd said something along the lines of, what did he say? I can't remember. I don't want to misquote what she told me, but he said something really rude. He said something along the lines of basically, "You're incompetent, what you doing here? Like, you're not good enough, like, just get out of here." And again, she didn't say anything. And, you know, I'm sharing this experience because it's experiences that people sometimes experience. I didn't experience anything like this, because just from, you know, just don't try me. But I've never experienced anything like it, but I know a lot of people have experienced it. That's why I'm sharing her experience. And, you know, in that situation, again, she didn't say anything, and she was like, "I don't know what to do." And I was like, I need to talk really slowly now because I don't want to say her name. And I was like, "What do you mean, like, you don't know what to do? Like, this person has literally violated you like several times for no reason. Just because you are in uniform doesn't give people the right to talk to you like crap." How I see it, like, if I ever find myself in a situation like that, how I just kind of see it is, if I was outside Buckingham Palace and someone said that to me, would I accept it? No. So why am I gonna, you know, accept and tolerate it and act like it's normal just because I'm in my uniform? Just because I'm in my uniform doesn't give you the right to be rude to me, doesn't give you the right to swear at me, doesn't give you the right to, you know, talk in such a derogatory manner to me. Now, if that was me, if I was in my friend's situation, I would not have tolerated that. You know, the third incident where he snatched a bit of paper off her and basically said, "You're incompetent, why are you here, blah, 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 blah," and there was other people around, that is not the situation where you remain silent. Because I feel like if you remain silent in that situation and just brush it over, not only are you kind of, in a sense, reinforcing that person's behavior. If you study psychology, then you know what I mean by positive and negative reinforcement. If you're basically reinforcing that person's behavior by not saying anything, you're also reinforcing onlookers who are there. They're thinking, okay, that guy spoke like crap to Maria, she didn't say anything, therefore, you know, I don't need to worry too much if I speak to her like crap, because she probably won't say anything to me. If that was me in that situation, I would have just, you know, if I was sat down or stood up, made sure my hands, you know, are on my laps, because if your hands are moving around, people are going to start saying, you know, that you're assaulting them or whatever. So if you're in any confrontational situation, make sure your hands are always on your lap or on your knees or whatever, however long your arms are. And I would have just said to him, "Don't you ever talk to me like that. watch your tone of voice, and as soon as this handover is finished, I'm going to be doing a datix. That is what I'm going to do. And left it at that. And if that guy wanted to continue to say really rude stuff to her in front of other members of staff, he can continue that. She doesn't have to go back. She's already said that behavior is not, or I've already said that behavior is not acceptable. Don't you ever talk to me like that. I am going to formally report you. Leave it at that. You've set the standard now. It's not there for you, if you ever find yourself in that situation, to be going back and forth in that situation. What I also would have done once the situation was over was I certainly would have completed a datix. I would have found out the head of the director or one of the governors, and I also would have wrote a letter to them briefly saying what happened, but making sure to put the datix number in there. That way, if they wanted to go into the database, they could see exactly what incident I was talking about. And in my friend's working environment, I was just as I was questioning her, I was like, why didn't you report it? And she was saying, oh, they said to me, oh, in this area we don't report people, we just support. What do you mean? What does that mean? So if bad things happen, I should just stay shush shush and not say anything? If people are constantly treating me like crap, and I'm not saying, you know, maybe I'm just having a bad day and I'm being extra sensitive. No, if people are literally saying really rude, derogatory, sexual things to me, so I'm just gonna support that behavior. Like, what do you mean we don't report people, we just support people here? Don't give into that. Don't give into that. One of my other friends who also works in a different healthcare environment, she was also telling me of a situation where they weren't in the hospital environment, they were like at a party or some sort of, you know, drinks after work or whatever, but it was work related. It was all with the workmates. Maybe they'd hit their targets or something like that. And one of the girls was saying, oh, I'm not going to get drunk because I've got work early in the morning. And one of the other guys, one of their senior members of staff, said to them, not really senior, but maybe a band or two higher in nursing perspective, said to them, oh, if you're not going to get drunk, then when you get home, send me a video of you and you doing X, Y, and Z. Basically, you and you doing like a whole bunch of sexual stuff that doesn't need to be shared. And she was just like gobsmacked by it, and she wasn't sure if she was going to report it. So my friend was telling me, like, was asking me, like, what should I advise my workmate to do? And I said to her, she needs to report it. And the reason, there's so many different reasons why you need to report it. And don't report things thinking, oh, if I report it, nothing's going to happen. You need to document everything. You don't just document things that have happened with patients. You also need to document things that have happened with yourself. Because let's just say if another incident arose where, you know, that member of staff did something sexual to this other member of staff, and then, you know, there wasn't enough evidence, but then they know, hey, wait, about 2 weeks ago, Maria reported this about this member of staff. Maybe this new member of staff who's reporting this, maybe they're not actually chatting crap. Maybe they're actually being serious. Maybe we have like serious grounds, not just for a small investigation, but for a massive investigation for things that this guy might have done. And I know a lot of my examples have been sexual, but those are the examples that I can, you know, share with you guys. Not that I've experienced it, but those are examples that some of my other friends who work in the healthcare industry, not necessarily the nursing industry, but who work in the healthcare industry, have shared with me. So yeah, stuff like that does happen. It does happen in every profession, but it doesn't mean it's okay. And I think that, you know, the connotations associated with nursing, because nursing is, you know, predominantly female, nursing being predominantly female just opens it up to so many issues. And I think, you know, one of the reasons why nurses haven't been able to attract a higher pay, I think one of the reasons why the government has allowed the nursing crisis to get as bad as it is because nurses are predominantly female. I can guarantee you, if nurses were predominantly male, like, we wouldn't be having such a massive issue about nursing pay, nursing working conditions. But yeah, that's what I would have done. Going back to professional relationships, people will treat you how you treat yourself, or they will unconsciously learn how to treat you based on how you treat yourself, and they will replicate that. Now, I'm not saying don't have a friendship with your work colleagues. You should somewhat have friends or a friendly relationship with everyone you work with. And I can say at least I'm friends with, or I have a friendly relationship with everybody that I work with. But at the same time, I also appreciate that if you need to call me out, I'm there to be called out. If I need to call you out, I expect you to expect me to call you out, in the sense that just because we're friends and I see you do something wrong or see something that you've done that might need room for improvement, don't think that, oh, I'm friends, I'm not going to say that, oh, she should have done that differently, or oh, he should have done that differently. No, equally, I don't want the people that I work with to be like, oh, because I'm friends with Maria, or because I'm friendly with Maria, oh, if I see her do something wrong, I'm not going to tell her. No, if you see me do something wrong that I'm not aware of, or that maybe even if I am aware of it, if you see me do something wrong, or if you see something in my practice that you think could be better, tell me. Don't think that, oh, because, you know, we're really friendly, I'm not going to like backstab her, or I'm not going to backstab her, or I'm not going to tell her when she's done something wrong. So what I've written down, when lines are blurred, so I'm going to read something that I've written down again. When lines are blurred, that's when people start saying he or she is bitchy, or he or she backstabbed me. You can only be backstabbed by someone you considered a friend. They may not have considered you a friend. I guess it really depends on what you consider to be backstabbing. When I think of backstabbing, I think of broken trust, or of a broken professional trust. So now that, you know, we've mentioned backstabbing, I think it's right for me to mention, you know, bitchiness or bullying. Like, it does happen, but you can, to a certain degree, how much you are involved in it. And honestly, unless I'm directly experiencing things, I will take no part in bitchiness. I will take no part in the proper backstabbing. Like, I'm not going to take any part of it. So when it comes to bitchiness, unless I'm directly experiencing it, or unless I can offer some sort of advice to remedy the situation, to dampen down a situation, I'm not going to take any part in it. Especially if people like to say, oh, what do you think of this person, what do you think of that person? Unless I'm directly experiencing it, I'm not going to say anything. If it's something he said, she said, they said, and people are like, oh, Maria, what do you think? No comment. I have nothing to say. That really isn't any of my concern. I don't know, I'm not really interested. It's none of my business. You have to go to God with that one. I don't know, I don't really know what to say. It really isn't my business. Those are things you're going to have to start learning, because, you know, depending on how your ward is, the ward that I'm currently on, there's not really any bitchiness, not that I've seen anyway. But, you know, places that I've been as, especially as a student nurse, I felt like I definitely saw more bitchiness as a student nurse than I did as a registered nurse. And sometimes you're going to have to pull yourself out of it, because I'm not saying pull yourself out of it, but I'm saying pull yourself out of it in the sense that people are going to try to drag you in their mess, because, you know, misery likes company. But you don't need to be in the company of miserable people. You don't want to get yourself involved in that situation, especially if it's not something that you're directly experiencing. If it's something that somebody else is experiencing, unless you can offer them actual, you know, practical advice on how to dampen the situation and how to get themselves out of the situation, or unless you're personally experiencing yourself and you're just trying to, you know, offload on other people appropriately, then you really have nothing to say in that situation. That situation is none of your concern. You can pray about it, but it's none of your concern. But yeah, if, you know, you feel like people are bullying you, or if they feel they're mistreating you, then sometimes you're just gonna have to pull up. And I don't mean like pull up in a sense like, you know, you're gonna like rock it out and stuff. I don't mean that. But I literally mean pull up in the sense that, okay, you have an issue with me. It's clear you have an issue with me. What is your issue? Tell me. And if it's something that I can improve, if I'm generally in the wrong, if it's something that I can improve, I can assure you that there will be steps to ensure that there is no more, or there is no longer an issue, or we can do things to mitigate the issue. However, if there's nothing to do with me, and it's literally just all in your head, and it's literally just all your situation, and it's literally just you for no good reason have a problem with me, then you're going to have to deal with it yourself. And I can say for me, I think that mentality comes from the fact that when I was younger, like when I was really, really young, I was actually bullied a lot, and I can't hack it. So there are a handful of things that you can do when it comes to like bullying or people mistreating you. One, you can address it and accept it. In terms of address it, okay, and I don't mean like pull up and say, oh, what's your problem, but it can literally just be, are you okay, to the person. Do you need me to help you with anything? They can be like, oh, what do you mean I don't need to help you with anything? Oh, well, I've noticed the past couple of weeks you've been really snappy with me for no apparent reason. Is there anything that I can help you with? Sometimes it might just be an extension of love in terms of you having to extend a bit more love to that person. you can ignore it, which I think it takes a very special type of person to, you know, ignore it. I think the best option is to address it and to accept it. If it's something that you need to change, then change it. And if it's something that the other person needs to change, then, you know, you can direct them to your ward manager. I'm sure your ward manager has some sort of training or some sort of program that, you know, they can give to that certain member of staff that can help them out. Am I fair in saying that? So yeah, I think we've kind of touched upon everything in terms of expectations, nursing shortages, professional relationships, and support and development. I haven't really spoken about support and development, but I think I've spoken about that a bit when I talked about nursing shortages. Setting boundaries, yes, I think we've talked a lot about setting boundaries. And I also mentioned accountability at the beginning of the video, and I didn't mean like accountability in terms of it being a hard and fast topic, but accountability in terms of that you need to be reflective and you need to look within yourself, because as much as, you know, there may be issues, you know, you may encounter, you know, blocks, stumbling blocks when you're transitioning from a student nurse to a newly qualified nurse. As I mentioned so many times in this video, it's not always a case of them, you. Sometimes you need to take accountability for your own actions. Sometimes you need to take accountability for what you've done and for what you haven't done. You need to take accountability for your learning. Don't be so reliant on people to, you know, give you the best of what you need, like, because that isn't the case. You need to be accountable for yourself. I'm just trying to think of if there's anything else that I could have said. I do want to mention about professional relationships, professional boundaries. Set your boundaries, set your professional relationships as early as possible. And the reason why I said it is because I feel like that is something that you're learning all the time. As people come in, come out, you're learning all the time. And you're not only like reinforcing it in other people through what you do and what you don't do, or in a sense reinforcing it with what you do and what you don't do, you're also reinforcing it within yourself. If you spent the last 6 months allowing, you know, people to treat you like X, Y, and Z, you can be like, okay, I'm just going to go into a different hospital and they're not going to treat you like X, Y, and Z. But if you're so used to behaving in this particular way or not behaving in this particular way, then it's something that you're going to attract, if that makes sense. You know, I do believe that what you put out is what you receive. And if you're acting in a certain way, people are going to treat you like that. And if you're acting in a certain way, people in a sense will also treat you like that. And, you know, a lot of what I'm saying, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not trying to blame you. I'm not trying to blame other people, but I just want people to look inwards within themselves, because at the end of the day, what we can mostly control is ourselves, especially when it comes to transitioning from a student nurse over into a newly qualified nurse. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions or comments or queries, put it in the comments box below. If you want me to do a Q&A, or I would really like to do a Q&A in follow-up to that, because I feel like if I was to do a Q&A, the video would be a lot more structured. So yeah, if you want a Q&A, let me know. Put all your questions below. You can ask me more than one question. Every time I say I want to do a Q&A or something, people just ask one question. It's like, if you really only got one question. But anyway, ask as many questions as you want. And if, you know, I get maybe like at least 3 or 4 questions, then I'll probably just do a Q&A video centered around transitioning from a student nurse to a newly qualified nurse. Anyway, give this video a thumbs up and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.